In this video, I address why emotionally smothering or doing too much for a child does not teach or provide them with the necessary life skills. I am Deidré Wallace, a relationship and corporate therapist. The clue is always in the gaze, point 23b. A few years back, I noticed the untied shoelace of a young boy around 11 years old. Upon pointing this out to the boy, I then watched as his mother immediately sprung to life, bent down and tied his shoelace. There could have been all sorts of reasons why she did this. However, the boy really looked embarrassed, and I found that my jaw had also dropped. The boy, being almost a young adult, should have been given the space to tie his own shoelace and not left to look inept. And this is what I regularly see now. Parents jumping in and overprotecting their children without realizing the long-term effects. Doing too much for a child can also give a child the wrong message. It also implies a parent has no trust in a child and in their capabilities. Child psychologists have now noticed a new dilemma. The suicide rate amongst young adults is rising, all because many have not been taught how to cope with adult life, and most importantly, how to deal with conflict. It seems that doing too much for a child, hovering over them and becoming what is known as a helicopter parent, is actually leaving many children feeling helpless and unable to manage on their own. And there is a growing concern that if a child hasn't been shown or given enough tools to build confidence and self-worth, they could find themselves at a loss when dealing with various situations in adulthood, especially at work. Many are led to believe that very quickly they will rise to the top of companies without any understanding that it takes years of hard work and experience to achieve this. And when they get rejected at job interviews and when they don't get the jobs they hope for, confusion can set in as they quickly realize that adult life can be merciless. Now, young adults are moving back home as they find it easier than being out there and making it on their own, especially when the cost of living and rent has gone up. But this can also be hard on parents who may have hoped to spend time together, traveling, enjoying retirement, and so on. But more worrying is that these children have now developed a range of mental illnesses, forcing them to take medication. Some have become depressed, and sadly for a few, suicide seems to be an option. This is extremely worrying. When you make a child the center of your world, when you prioritize their happiness and needs, you are teaching them to expect that your needs, and possibly everyone else's needs, will get pushed onto the back burner. This way, you'll be teaching them that the world revolves exclusively around them. But you'll be teaching them a fantasy, a self-centered illusion that the real world will never tolerate. And you won't be raising a confident child, you'll be raising an entitled one. And then, the working world especially could brutally correct this delusion. And it'll deliver a harsh correction and certainly won't orbit your child. And your child may struggle. You see, it can feel like you're loving them by doing so much for them, but really you're making life harder for them. Instead, it is important to allow children to develop important life skills that will help them learn how to cope and how to motivate and discipline themselves, as this will stand them in good stead later on in life. But not encouraging a child to work during vacations and so on is becoming a drawback. Those who have worked and who can add what they did during holidays, etc. on their CVs are actually finding work, even if it's not the top job they hope for. And this is happening because they can prove that they are prepared to work, and this is very attractive to prospective employers. Often though, I've heard parents say, they didn't want to take away the innocence of their child, that they prefer to let them play and enjoy life. On one hand, yes, but there also has to be a balance. Doing too much for a child and providing them with what you didn't have only means that you're putting your own needs before your child's needs. There is nothing wrong with wanting to provide and give a child a good and healthy childhood, but spoiling them and possibly overdoing it can leave a child feeling helpless and insecure when faced with adult life or adversity, because they won't know how to achieve these things for themselves. Also, as salaries haven't gone up much, many are struggling to afford what they have become accustomed to. And because most cannot, this is making them feel powerless and unhappy. And many feel that they have somehow failed, resulting sometimes in depression. Nowadays too, there seems to be an aversion to risk-taking. Children aren't allowed to play as they used to, let alone climb that tree I mentioned in video 21. This is because many people seem to think that the world is a more dangerous place, yet access to mobile phones, CT cameras, modern and in some cases safer transport means that if something goes wrong, we are in a better position here in the West, at any rate, to get help. Yet, it seems that in some cases, a generation of mimsy kids is being produced who don't know how to take risks, resolve conflict, make decisions, fail or make mistakes without feeling a failure, without falling apart and losing all their confidence. It is therefore time to stand back and allow children a bit of breathing space. But also, social media isn't helping either. Instagram and selfies make everyone look happy, successful, rich and beautiful. That results in everyone else feeling poor and ugly and not good enough. This can result in a poor self and body image that can cause emotional paralysis. Getting out of this black hole isn't always easy. That is why a good foundation and a dose of sound reality is of utmost importance as a child grows up. Life around us is changing all the time, and we need to provide our kids with the tools to cope. Also, teaching discipline may help kids not only make their beds or do daily chores around the house. They will then struggle less at work when they are confronted with the things that are mundane or boring, but are part of adult life too. And I've begun to also realize that many young adults who advocate authoritarian policies do so via an unconscious, if not conscious, need and cry for discipline, rules and boundaries they themselves so desperately crave. It is, of course, really hard to parent a child, but let's work together to give them the tools to achieve and thrive. Back to you now. Have you experienced this either as a parent or as a child of an emotionally smothering parent? How have you coped as a result? Once again, I would encourage you to head to your journal to write what and how this information has made you feel. As you write down how each video has helped you think deeper, you may get to know yourself better too. And do please subscribe or comment if you have any questions. Thank you.